Are you interested in starting your very first Minecraft server and you're not sure what to do? I've got some tips for you. What is up, my people? My name is Stifflered and welcome back to the cafe, where we talk about tools, tips, and tricks to take your Minecraft creations to the next level. As you may already know, I run a Discord server called Server Owners United, where different server owners, different walks of life and experience levels all gather together to work and solve problems, ask questions, get tips, and find other people to collaborate with. And recently, I've had a couple of people who have asked questions about how to start their very first Minecraft server. So I decided it's a good idea to go ahead and make a video just for all of you who are just getting started and don't know how to start at all. In this video, I'm very briefly going to cover a few topics like selecting a server host, what type of server jar you should have, the package to order, how to install plugins, and even how to connect via FTP so that you can manage all of the files and configuration of your server. There is, of course, a ton of topics that I could cover for brand new server owners, and I look forward to doing that in the future, but those will have to be separate videos. If you're interested in seeing that kind of content, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel because I'll be releasing many more videos about this subject in the future. Alright, let's get down to business. We're gonna hop over into a web browser and out of this world because, one, it's raining and that's nasty, but also because that's where all the magic happens behind the scenes. See you over there. Now, the first thing that you're probably going to want to consider is what type of Minecraft server you want to install. That is, what server jar are you going to use for running your Minecraft server? You might be tempted to use the standard Minecraft server jar, which you can get at minecraft.net. There's some different options there for downloading that. But what I actually would recommend is using a different type of server jar. And we're going to get into more details of what this means in just a little bit. But you have a couple of different main choices. There are many more than this, but these are the two that I would recommend looking at for right now. First off, you have Spigot. And Spigot is a fork and a recreation of the old CraftSpigot server jars from years ago. Bucket as a project was ended a while back, and spigotmc.org is what took over that project. And so you can look on there. Again, I'm going to get into some more detail about what Spigot does and why you might select it. There is also PaperSpigot, which is a fork of Spigot, and it includes a number of optimizations and advanced features and lots of configuration options. I actually prefer PaperSpigot, and I recommend it highly for most server owners to check out. Now, both of those are going to be for servers that don't require mods to be installed. Your standard servers where players can connect without downloading and installing other mods. But if you are looking to have a multiplayer server that supports mods and might even require mods to be installed, then you may look at a server jar like Forge and use that instead. This is a totally separate subject. I don't want to get into Forge mod installation or anything like that at all in this video. I'm just going to focus on Spigot and PaperSpigot right now, but you can look for a video in the future about Forge. Alright, so with understanding that Spigot and PaperSpigot both exist, and you're going to want to look into those and do some reading and find out which one is going to work best for you, now let's look over at choosing a server host and then selecting the type of package that's going to meet your server needs. Choosing a server host is actually quite tricky, and you want to be careful that you are using one that is reputable and is going to allow great uptime and excellent support. I'm going to give a quick note here of importance. Do not use a free host. Do not use a free host. Do not use a free host. All right, is that clear now? It is so tempting to try and use a free server host, but I'm telling you right now that you are going to be plagued with problems. Not only will the support be probably pretty horrendous, but the files on the server might not be optimized. You're probably going to be sharing resources with other servers, which is can be problematic, and in fact could have malicious code on them, which could hurt you pretty badly. Just don't use a free host. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to. Just don't do it. Do not do it under any circumstances. I'm not even going to argue this point. Don't use a free host. Now, as for cheap and affordable hosting, there are many options. And again, I will caution you to be careful about who you pick. Don't just go with the cheapest option. There are a number of reasons why you want to really think about and consider which server host to go with. And shared hosts have a reputation of not having the greatest services available. There are some that are better than others, though. Shared hosting means that your Minecraft server is going to be on the same machine, sharing the same resources as other Minecraft servers. So if one of those other Minecraft servers gets, a little bit resource hogging, then that can actually affect the performance of your own Minecraft server. This is why shared hosting is generally a little bit cheaper. A lot a bit cheaper, actually, and it can also be plagued with various problems. But not every Minecraft server is in need of a massive machine or VPS or dedicated hardware, so getting a Minecraft shared server is perfectly acceptable as long as you consider the source of that service and make sure that they are a good one. I can recommend Shockbyte as one Minecraft server host that has done fairly well. And there are plenty of others as well. And the one that I recommend the most is ExtraVM. ExtraVM is a great server hosting service created by and owned by a former Spigot team member. And it is a phenomenal option for shared hosting, VPS hosting, and even dedicated machines. So you should definitely check them out. I'm actually going to use ExtraVM for the rest of this video to show you how to manage your servers and get one up and running. I want to mention that I am not being paid by ExtraVM for this video or to give them a shout out here. They are just a great service that I really enjoy using and I want to show them off. All right, so you've thought about the different types of server jars that are out there. You have selected your host and now you need to think about what type of package to get for your server. Let's say you're going to go with shared hosting, and that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this video, is setting up a shared hosting Minecraft server. Again, just using ExtraVM as an example, you can go ahead and check out the Minecraft servers list, and there are a number of different options. Not only are there different options for the size, the memory, RAM, suggested players, the storage, uptime, and all that, but there are also different options for where you want that server to be located. And you can see ExtraVM has North American, European, and Singapore servers to choose from with some slight pricing differences. Again, don't just go with the cheapest option, right? Think about where your players are going to be located and which server is going to be closest to them to connect to so that they have great ping and great connection and can have a really nice experience playing on your server. I actually have a couple of my servers in France, in Europe, and that allows a really nice connection from US players and of course all my European players, whereas I also do have a server in Singapore for my Australian players and those in the Oceania and Pacific regions. Alright, so which server plan should you select? You can see that you have the memory at the very top, the cheapest option, $4.50 quarterly, that's about $1.50 a month. You can have up to 8 players, 512 megabytes of memory, and it seems like a decent size for like a private server between you and a few friends, and it definitely could be, but consider that if you are going to travel a lot and roam around your world a lot, you're going to probably use up a lot of storage space, and if your players are more redstone heavy and they want to build a lot of mob farms and things like that, then this first plan might not be good enough for them. You got to think about what type of gameplay you're going to have before you select the option that you want to use. If there are 8 players and all of them are heavy redstoners, then probably not this cheapest option. You might want to bump up a couple of plans higher, and that way you have some extra memory and extra resources to give you the buffer space. Typically, what I try to do is I take the number that is suggested and I'll divide it by 4. So I'll take a quarter of what is suggested and I'll say, do I have that many players on consistently? And if so, then that's the plan that I'm going to go with. So for example, we have up to 45 players on this one. If I'm going to have 10 to 15 players on consistently, then this is the option that I'm going to go with rather than these top 3 options, even though 10 to 15 players is not going to fill up all of these slots on these 2 plans. Something else to consider is how many plugins you're going to have installed on the server, which we're going to get into in a little bit, and what those plugins can do. If they're going to be using a lot of resources, tracking every single block and things like that, then you probably don't want to use a smaller plan, even if you only have a couple of players. Heavy resource using plugins are going to take up some of your memory and some of your resources, and so consider that as well. Of course, with extra VM, you can always upgrade at a later point, so you can try it out on a small plan and then bump it up as time goes on and you need more resources. Just for the sake of this video, I am going to select the 1 GB plan for $3 a month, and I'm going to put it in Europe. And that'll probably be in France. Now, this is going to be $3 a month, but you can select, annually if you want to, and then you're covered for the entire year or quarter or, half a year or something like that. Now, something else that you might want to consider is getting a dedicated IP address. It just makes it a little bit easier so your players aren't ever confused and you can keep that dedicated IP going into the future. I'm not going to get one for this video. So once I have selected this, I can click continue. All right, so once you have paid for the service and gotten it all set up and ordered, you are going to see this client panel here. Now I have 6 servers all set up with extra VM already, and I have the top one here is the most recent one that I have purchased. So we'll click on that. And you can see that it's the $3 a month, 1 GB Minecraft server in North America or Europe. Of course, I selected that it would be in Europe, and there's no dedicated IP, so you can see all of those details there. And here at the bottom is go to Multicraft. Multicraft is the dashboard that you will use for managing your server. I'll just go ahead and log in. And here we go. These are 4 different servers that I have on a shared hosting plan. This recent one here is called Minecraft server. That's the default name. And you can see I have a couple of others on here as well. This one is my YouTube server. This one is just a testing server. And then here is another testing server that I have for the Tree Crafters community. But we're going to select Minecraft server. And a few things to note here. We have the player slots is 100. You might notice that that is much higher than the player slots that is recommended by Extra VM on their sales page. That's okay. This is just default. It's not a bait and switch kind of thing. So we can just set that back down to like 10, and that's actually about where I keep it. All of my other servers, even my VPS, I keep at 20 player slots, not because I am wanting to prevent more players from logging in, but because it just feels empty when you have 10 players on a server with 200 slots compared to having 10 players on a server with 20 slots. It's just like a little psychological thing. You also have the IP address here, which is what you'll use to connect to, and the port. Now, the thing with the IP address and the port is you need to make sure that you connect to the correct port with a shared host, because other Minecraft servers will have that same IP address, but they will have a different port. So if your players are typing in the wrong port at the end, then they will not connect to your server. And the way that you connect to an IP address with a port, you go into Minecraft, multiplayer, add server, you put in the IP address, and then at the end of that IP address, you put a colon, and then the port, and then done. and it will pop up there at the bottom. You can see, again, it has 100 slots. We're not going to connect just yet. We need to hop back over into Extra VM and set a few more things up. You have the default world. We can change this to test world. The jar file, this is where I was talking about the different versions that you can select. You have Spigot, PaperSpigot, Craft Bucket, and there are many others as well. Spigot goes all the way up to 1.13.1, and the other ones are 1.12.2 at the latest, except the Minecraft Vanilla. This is your standard Minecraft jar with no extra optimizations or features that you can get access to. So let's say we're going to select this Spigot 1.13.1. You just select it, and you'll notice that the jar file changes from being blank to showing the new jar file. Spigot is going to be installed on that server after I click save. There are a few more settings that you might want to adjust. For example, the name of your server. We'll call this Awesome Test Server. And under advanced settings, you can see the options for autosave and announce world save. If you have a plugin or use the Spigot or PaperSpigot settings for autosaving, then you might want to turn these off. That way you're not using additional resources and causing a bit of TPS lag on your server. And then, of course, you also have your permissions. We have the cheat role and the IP auth role for players that you select here in Multicraft as having those roles. Then we click save. And at the top, we have start, stop, restart, and kill. These also are available in the console view. So this console view shows everything that's happening on the server at any given moment. It only goes back a few lines, but if you keep this open, then this window will definitely get a lot longer, and you can see any errors, any activity. You can watch your players, you can see what commands they're running, what chats they're sending, and all that type of good stuff. And then, of course, you have your start, stop, restart, and kill. So I'm going to click stop because I changed some of the settings in the server. We wait until at the end it says server shut down, server stopped, and then we click start again. We give it a few seconds. It's going to give some information here about what is going on. You know, we're going to start in 20 seconds here. It's going to show what version of the Spigot jar or PaperSpigot jar it is that we are using, if there are any updates that are needed to be installed, and other such things. Once that startup is going, then you will see all of the plugins start loading in, and the server is not yet online for players to connect to. It is still loading up all of these libraries and making sure that everything is connecting properly with your plugins. You're going to want to watch out for any warnings or errors in the console when you're first starting up, especially once you install some plugins, because that is going to let you know if there are problems on your server that need fixing. If you get a warning with a lot of code and a lot of lingo that you just don't understand, you can probably take that warning, copy it, and send it over to the respective plugin developer and see if they have a fix for you. And then at the end, the startup is done. So we can now connect to our Minecraft server. Let's refresh, scroll to the bottom. You can see a Minecraft server, 0 out of 10, and we can join that server. And there we have it. We are now on the brand new Minecraft server, and it's looking pretty great. Now, what if you want to upload other files, like a world that you have already backed up from another server, or plugins that you want to install on the server, or even if you want to get a new server jar that is not available in that drop-down list from Extra VM? The process is actually pretty simple. All that you need to do is go back into Multicraft, click on Files on the left side, and then the option FTP File Access. We can select that. Now, your Multicraft password was already created or sent to you by Extra VM when you set up the account, but this is your FTP address, your port, and the username that you have, and then you'll also want to grab that password. This is the information that you need to connect to an FTP file program and upload all of the files that you want to add to your server. Another recommendation that I have is actually WinSCP. and I'll leave a link to download that down in the description below. WinSCP is what I use for all of my FTP or SFTP processes and activities, and you can see I already have a bunch of servers set up for Minecraft so that I can connect as needed. To connect to your new Minecraft server, you're going to want to click New Site and type in that host name that we have back here. The host name is actually going to be the FTP address, which we'll type there. The file protocol will be FTP, the port number 21. The username is FTP username there, with the final .3899 at the end. And the password is the one that Multicraft sent to you. Now, once I'm going to go grab that now. I'm not going to type it in, but I will paste that in and then click login. After a few seconds of it all being logged in, here we go. We're ready to go. You can see that I even have the new folders for Test World, which is what I set in Multicraft as my default world name. And there are some other files here as well that you're going to want to look at. There are a few things to take a look at here. First off, there's the server properties, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see that you can set a few different options here. For example, if you want to enable or disable the Nether, if you want to have a whitelist where only you and the people that you give permission to can connect, what the difficulty of the server is, if it's hardcore, if you want to enable command blocks, so on and so forth, all the way down. Now, you may notice at the bottom there is MOTD. That stands for Message of the Day. And the default message of the day is a Minecraft server. But let me go ahead and change that to "This is so cool." And then I click Control S to save the file. It's going to save it back here on the server, and then I click on my Minecraft client and refresh, and at the bottom, nothing has changed. Why hasn't anything changed? It's because I actually need to restart the server. When I'm changing these files, none of the changes actually go through until I restart the server. Well, as you know, in Multicraft, restarting is super simple. We just go back to the console, and we click restart. And now that that is all done, the startup is finished, I can go back into Minecraft and click refresh, and at the bottom, now it shows the message of the day, "This is so cool." I actually use the message of the day as a way to share announcements with my players. So you can see here, new tree crafters in 1.13, check the forums for info. And you could use that for a number of different options as well. With Spigot and PaperSpigot, there are also a couple of other files that you'll want to take note of. First, there is bucket.yml. This has a few options. If you want to limit the monsters or animals that spawn, if you want to change the ticks per spawn to reduce lag possibilities, or just change the gameplay on your server, you might change some settings in here. In spigot.yml, there are some other settings as well. There's the messages. You're not whitelisted on this server. You have commands. Are they going to be logged to the console or logged to a file? The advancements, whether or not they will be disabled for players on the server. And then, of course, all the different world settings for the various worlds that you have set up. If you want to upload another world to your server and get connected to that, it's really simple. All that you have to do is find the world folder in your Minecraft server, like in a backup or on your Minecraft single player worlds, and you can grab that and drag and drop it over onto your server, and that's going to be uploaded. It will take a few minutes depending on the size of the world that you are uploading, but after a little while it will be uploaded and you'll be able to get access to that. Alright, so we have the test world that has already been selected for my server, that as the main world that my players will connect into. But let's say I want to switch that over to world. Let's say I uploaded this file world to this server and I want my players to connect into there. Really easy to change. You just go back into Multicraft, click on your awesome test server, go down to the world option here, and you just change that to the folder name of the world that you want to connect to, and then click save. Now, again, once you've changed this, you need to restart the server so that all of your changes can go into effect. Now, I want to jump back to the server jar real quick because that's in this same folder here. If you wanted to use a different server jar than one of the ones that's available in the drop-down box, then you can just download that server jar onto your computer or use like the Spigot build tools and then upload the final jar into this main folder for your Minecraft server. I'm going to leave some links in the description down below to some different server jars or build tools that will teach you how to get those server jars on your computer. But for right now, what I want to look at is actually PaperSpigot. PaperSpigot is, again, a fork of Spigot that adds a lot of optimization, so it's going to help with any lag issues. It also adds Timings version 2, which is light years beyond Timings version 1 in Spigot's main jar. So if you want to use Spigot's timings, that's fine, that's just fine, but Timings version 2 in PaperSpigot is just really handy and has a lot of great features. Timings is what you're going to use for looking and trying to identify where lag issues are on your server, and so that is a huge reason why I recommend PaperSpigot over the regular Spigot. You can actually download Spigot, again, link in the description, and you can actually get the jar directly from papermc.io, and there are a number of different options here for downloads. But if you remember, in Multicraft, we have the jar file here, and right now it's just showing the default. But when you were first selecting the jar file to, find which one that you wanted to select, it only showed PaperSpigot 1.12.2. Well, now you can download 1.13.1 from this page, and we're going to grab it right here, paperclip.jar. That's going to download, and I actually already have a version on my computer, so I'm just going to rename that and then replace, and that will download onto my computer. Now that I have that downloaded, I go back into the FTP client, and I navigate to the folder where that download is, paperclip.jar, that's the one I just downloaded, and all I have to do is drag and drop that over into the server. Now this is quite a large file, so it takes a couple of minutes to upload, but once it's done, we'll jump back in and I'll show you how to select that in Multicraft. Okay, so paperclip.jar is now uploaded. Let's head back into Multicraft. And we look at the jar file field here. We'll leave it as default and type in paperclip.jar and then save. And once again, after we save, we click restart. Once you click on restart, you can actually head into the console and take a look and make sure that the version of the server jar that is being enabled is actually PaperSpigot or whatever one that you selected. And you can see it says this server is running paper version get paper 3.171.13.1. So it is using the correct server jar that I wanted to use on my server. Startup is done. So let's head back over into Minecraft, multiplayer, scroll down, and it is active. You can also see that I am in a totally new world because I selected a different world folder in my server settings in Multicraft. And that is what I have logged into here. Now, the last step, and the one that I think that most of you are probably interested in knowing about, is installing different plugins. Now, giving you advice on what types of plugins to install and how to configure them and which ones are going to do certain features is a topic for many videos. So I'm not going to cover all of that right here, but I will show you how to install plugins and look at the configuration files for each of those plugins. Before we get into that though, I did want to point out one last thing. Once we added in paperclip.jar, we actually got a new file, paper.yml, and just like the spigot.yml and bucket.yml, this adds a lot of different options. This is some of the advantage of using paper over just standard Spigot, and you can go through and look at all these and modify them as needed. Okay, back to plugins. What do we need to do to install plugins? Super simple. First of all, you're going to download your plugins from a variety of different locations. Here we have spigotmc.org. Well, not all, but most Spigot MC plugins will work with PaperSpigot, unless there are some very specific causes for lack of compatibility. Probably 98 to 99% of all Spigot plugins will work in Spigot MC, and you can download different plugins from the resources tab on spigotmc.org. In fact, if you click on that, you're going to see all of the different options here. There are thousands of plugins that you can look through, and I've spent many days just browsing through to try and find different ideas to use. But you could also click and sort by rating, which is going to show those top plugins on the resources directory. Or you can even select downloads and see what the most popular plugins are. Now, some of these plugins you may want to download include World Guard or Grief Prevention, World Edit, and these all do they have different functionality that are going to be essential for running your Minecraft server depending on the game modes that you want to include on that server. There are also premium plugins, and they do cost money. You'll have to buy them when you want to download them, and if you purchase a premium plugin, it shows up in your purchased resources. You can see all the different plugins that I have purchased over the last year, and there's some pretty good ones in here, but you're going to have to find and select the plugins that you want to use for yourself. By the way, just going to throw it out there, I do have a few plugins myself, and I have more coming in the future. Okay, so once you've downloaded a number of different plugins that you want to use on your server, super easy, like before, with installing them. First, you go into your FTP client and you find the plugins directory. You select that and you'll see that there's just 2 folders. There are no jar files or any other plugins installed. Well, all that you have to do to install them is download them onto your computer, and then you can click and select all the ones that you want to install. I'm going to just choose a few of them here. Let's grab the Discord SRV. That's a plugin for connecting your Minecraft server chat to Discord. World Guard, which allows you to protect various regions. World Edit for doing a lot of really advanced building and really quick building tools. CMI, which I use for so many different reasons. It has over 250 features that are essential for server owners, and I actually did a video showcasing this at one point. And Grief Prevention, which allows your players to protect regions that they don't want other players to be able to build in or access or destroy in Grief. So we just click and drag and drop those over into our plugins folder. And once those are all uploaded, I think you can probably guess what we are going to do. We'll head back into Multicraft and restart the server. One thing I do want to mention while the server is restarting one last time is that if you are going to add plugins or modify the plugins at all, it's actually probably a better idea to stop the server, do your modifications, and then start, because some plugins will cache the settings, and when you stop or restart the server, it will revert the changes that you made while the server was live to match those cached settings that were active while the server was active. So stop the server, make the changes, and then restart. That's the safest way to go about it. That is not always necessary, and you'll find the plugins where that is necessary to do that or not, but I just recommend that as a safe bet. Once the server's been restarted, you can go back into the FTP client and refresh, and you'll see that there are now a bunch of new folders for each one of those plugins, and you can select on those folders and get access to the various config files and change the settings and the stored data and all that. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these different settings, but you can see them all here. And now that's it. We have uploaded the world, we have changed to PaperSpigot, we have installed plugins, and even purchased an account here with extra VM to set up with a shared host. That's all that you really need to do to get your Minecraft server up and running. I hope that this has helped you. If you have any questions, then by all means, hit me up in the comments on this video, or even the link in the description is going to take you to my Discord server where you can ask myself or many other server owners questions and get advice about how to run your servers. One other thing, guys, is that my YouTube channel here, the Café, is all about helping Minecraft server owners. So make sure that you subscribe if this video helped you and you'd like to see more tips and tricks for Minecraft server owners to help you succeed in the long run. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. It's been a pleasure making this video, and I look forward to making more in the future. If you have any questions or comments, then by all means, hit me up. Be happy to hear from you. I look forward to seeing what you build in Minecraft with all of your players and all the success that you will find. I'll see you later.